Alrighty, I just want to go ahead and start off. Welcome everybody to, I think, the third week, fourth week of the weekly recap and churning. I'm Frank, Dug46. I believe most of the guys in the chat room here have been here, but for those who haven't, let me recap what you do really quick. Obviously, you guys have been in the chat already pretty active. That's great. If you want to ask me a question, the one thing I do ask is you type /Q, and that's the slash right down by the question mark. You type /Q space, and then you type in your question. When you type in those questions, they'll populate on my sheet over here, and then I can kind of pick out questions and answers, because a lot of times somebody will ask a question and I'm talking about something, so I can't get to it right away. So I try to keep up with that, with the questions, post those. If you have any questions about manufacturer spending, now would be the time to post those questions. And then as I talk, through it, as I talk about the process and just some of my experiences, I'll go ahead and start answering those questions as we get to it. So if something comes to your mind, again, it's just /Q, whatever else. One feature that we don't really use too much here, but kind of slick, is you can click on my picture. If you click on my picture, that kind of gives me a little applause. There we go. See some applause there. And that just lets me know that, kind of I'm on the right path of the conversation, that you like what I'm talking about. If you don't like what I'm talking about, then it is what it is. You just have to leave, I guess, at that point. So I had somebody ask me, it was just last week, they mentioned the process of manufacturer spending, just kind of wanted me to touch on it. My original thought when I started this webcast was I didn't want to do too much about manufacturer spending, mostly because it's just a gray area. A lot of people have a lot of secrets they don't want to share. I don't view it as such. I think manufacturer spending is fine as long as you do it responsibly. I've heard so many stories back in the day when we had Target's Redbird, of people lining up with like 20 Redbird cards and holding a line up and everything else. And that's a little obnoxious. As long as you're doing it responsibly, the amount of people that you talk to and the customer service reps, they really don't mind it. And I'll kind of walk you through some of that, in this when I first started here. So I've been doing the whole churning thing for about 2 years now. So when it comes to manufacturer spending, I did a lot with Target when it was available. I had 4 cards, but I never did more than 2 loads at once. So, time I actually spent in the store wasn't bad. I would only go on off hours, like late at night. And I've never had a problem at Target, surprisingly. But then, of course, they went ahead and they shut that down. So it was all about trying to find something else to do. So from there, I actually have a Kroger right down the street from me. So I was able to go there, buy some Visa gift cards and load those to serve. And I'll kind of walk you through that process if you're new. Is anybody here new who's unfamiliar with manufacturer spending? If you are, just type in a chat, or I guess the chat, just so I know, and I can kind of, walk step by step, even if it's just quickly through that process. But, I think that the most uncomfortable thing I've had with manufactured spending is just, I'm going into a place like Target or even Kroger or wherever else you go, and you're literally trying to spend, somewhere between generally $500 to $3,000 at one time. And it's just a bit uncomfortable, not only for you, but for the cashier. And then the more uncomfortable the cashier is, of course, the more uncomfortable it makes you. And it's just kind of like a cycle there. And I just quickly to go over some things that I'm trying to think of, like, in particular experiences I've had. And I've had a few of those, but it's never really been too bad. I think for me, one strategy that's always worked well for me is that I'm generally very lighthearted with it all. So, when I take a Visa gift card and I'm going to load $500 and I have whatever 3 or 4 of them, you have to just not make it a big deal. I go up to the counter and I say, I'm going to make 500, 500 cards, or, three $500 cards, whatever the rules are for the store. Everybody's a little bit different, different policies for different stores, and you just kind of have to test those out. But yeah, I just act like it's like an everyday thing for me, like it's no big deal. If they kind of look at you and they give you that look and they say, I've had people joke like uncomfortably. I've had a customer service, man, I sure would like to work for you or something like that, because obviously they think I'm doing this for a business. At that point of view, I'll just kind of like play it off like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. But generally speaking, I just tell them, what I do is I actually, I'll laugh it off and say, no, I take these Visa gift cards I buy with my credit card, and then I just pay off my bills with them. So, because on all my bills, I can pay with a credit card. So it's just like a different way to get, bonus points through my mortgage and things like that. And they never ask. Like after that, everybody thinks I'm a genius, and it never really occurs to them that most cards, most different, what am I trying to say, utilities, you can pay with a credit card line. So they don't really ask though. They think it's funny, and it's all fine. Ideally, you get into a situation like I've had in the past, since kind of Rite Aid has really come along, I've had a lot of good luck with Rite Aid and the customer service there. I work right beside a Rite Aid, and I have like a 10-minute break every day. For whatever reason, I think it's mostly just for me to get out of the office. I just walk over to Rite Aid, and I get myself, Coke or bag of chips, something like that. So I've gotten to know every single cashier there. So it's a huge advantage for me. So when Rite Aid really started loading serve and everything was free, I was set already. I went in there. They've already known about my traveling and what I do, because they just casual conversation. They ask you, so you said you were going on vacation. Where are you going? And I'm like, Japan or Italy. And then automatically like, wow, you're going to these crazy places. So that helped me out a lot, is that I've already known these people. So it's like I've explained everything in like a little bit more detail on what I'm doing. They're fine with it. And actually, talking about a funny experience, I went in one afternoon. I always go in generally during the morning hours. So I went in one afternoon, and a cashier was working here. She was new, and I was unfamiliar with her, didn't know, exactly who she was. But I was like, whatever. So I took my $2,000, my 4 Visa gift cards, $2,000, and I walk them up to the front desk there, and she just kind of looks at me, and she's like kind of questioning everything. You can just tell. So everything went through. It was all fine, whatever. So the next day, I step in. This is hilarious. So I step into the store, and there's one of the cashiers I've known for the past year, and she goes, so we had a business meeting this morning, whatever, like a department meeting. She goes, one of the cashiers said that she had somebody come in and wanted to buy, $3,000 in Visa gift cards, and it was just kind of a little awkward for her because she wasn't used to that. So, hey, I just want to let you know, you don't have to worry. We told her all about you and everything that you do, and she's fine with it now too. And if she gives you any problems, you come and see me. It's like, that is awesome. So that's the kind of repertoire that I have with these people, and it's so great. So I never have to worry about, my manufacturer spending, at least as long as Rite Aid's doing it. And then I am a little worried about my serve cards going away, but I think they do money orders there too, so it shouldn't be really too bad. So there's if you're here, you can type /Q. I see your question there, but if you type /Q and do /Q space question, it allows me to see questions on the side here, so I can answer them all in order. So I'm going to go ahead and start answering some of these questions, and then I want to bring in Beals here. in just a moment. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off. Oh, the link disappeared. Sweet. Dan says a good strategy to lower your credit when you have reached your credit limit with the bank and want to apply for a new card and get auto approved. Yeah, okay, not really manufacturer spending approved, more end of the show kind of question. But I don't like ever lowering my credit. I don't know. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just depends. With Chase, like the Ritz card, they gave me like $35,000, which was just ridiculous. So I lowered that limit. But generally, I don't like to lower limits just because I like to call in and recon it. But anymore, honestly, I'm thinking about switching up that strategy just because I have too many cards. And if I go into recon, I'm pretty much guaranteed a denial at this point. So I think that maybe lowering those limits is actually going to be a better idea for me moving forward. Miles for Matt. What fee do I feel manufacturer spending is worth it? 3% compared. I mean, you just got to look at your points, what you're getting out of it. If you're going for a minimum spend on a card, I don't care if it's 5%, it's worth it. If you're just trying to generate spend on a card, 1% isn't worth it for me. I do this for free travel. I'm not in it to get cheap travel or half off travel. And if I was going to get half off travel, yeah, the Visa gift card money order thing isn't bad. But generally speaking, I'm in it for free travel. So I don't go after, I want the lowest fee possible. Anything over, 1.5%. I wouldn't be comfortable with anything like that. Ideally, you have money makers, through reselling is ideal. If you're talking large volume, you can get away with something like that. Let's see here. I think it's a little bit jumpy on the system. It's not like I don't just click and it works. I have to actually click and wait a few seconds for something else to happen. It's kind of annoying. If MS is legal, why do most places complain about buying X amount of Visa gift cards? Also, what's the point of money orders in the manufacturing process? I think the biggest reason why these places worry about money orders or Visa gift cards is because of fraud. Visa gift cards are one of the most fraudulent things purchased from a store. So let me give you an example. If anybody's ever had a situation where you've had to put a transaction dispute on a credit card, you almost always win. I don't think I've ever heard of a case where somebody disputed a transaction and lost. So I think, when you're dealing with a place like Reddit or something where it's one thing if you have a disputed transaction for a bag of chips, but when you have $1,500 in Visa gift cards and you dispute that transaction, it's an easy way to get a free $15. It's criminal, but it's one way to do it. The second part of that is that if I steal your credit card, I'm crazy guy. I'm going to steal your credit card. I'm not going to go to a store and buy a bag of chips. I'm going to go to a store and buy a $500 Visa gift card while your card is still active and still running. So those are the two reasons why they limit their losses and are worried about it. If it was store policy, let's say at my Rite to where I can only buy $500 at a time, I'm pretty sure at this point I could go there and just buy as many as I wanted and they'd be fine with that. So it's all about just protecting themselves in terms of a loss and playing it careful on their part is all that is. It's legal. It's just a little when you're dealing with that much money, it sets people off a little bit. Jacob actually posed not a question but a tip, and this is a good tip. If you're nervous about buying multiple cards for first time, dress nice clothes. They usually will ask less questions. That's very true. That's true for anything. I mean, really, it's not that it's illegal. It's not that it's questionable, but it goes right back to everything else that says, if you look good, if you dress the part, act the part, and you walk in with confidence, very few people are going to ask questions on it just because. So it's kind of strange, but it's just the way it is. So that's a good point. And then actually he says something else, but the show more button never does work. So I can't see exactly what all you type there. But yeah, I mean, that's true for, any part of this that you want to, I don't want to say get away with it, but if you want to look a little less questionable, that's an easy way to do it. Green Lotus Foods. I recently tried to buy money order at both Kroger and CVS. They said cash only. Is this normal? Eventually bought one at the USPS with a Visa gift card. No, actually, Kroger, I don't know about CVS. I don't buy at CVS. Kroger is very VGC friendly for me. So I would say no. It's probably store policy. However, it goes right back to the same thing. But usually they have debit cards. So, it's kind of strange. I mean, if you say no credit, but if you said, if you have a debit card, usually I've never had a problem with it at Kroger or Giant Eagle. I'm not sure where you're located at, but grocery stores are usually fine with debit cards. So I'm kind of surprised by it. The only problem with USPS, we'll touch on that in the next little bit here when I get Tyler on here, is that some of the dangers that you get with manufacturer spending. Like I said, I'll touch on that here in a bit. So I think I'm coming close to any questions. Man, I got a lot of questions. I like it. Yep. Dress to impress. I guaranteed to raise less questions, get away with a little bit more. JT wants to talk about depositing money orders. I know they spread the love theory. I gave Chase $1K and hopped the funds for 2 weeks because they said it was suspicious. Well, that's just bad luck. I think your best bet, I know it's kind of tough. It depends what you're doing with manufacturer spending and how much you're actually talking about. And Chase and Bank of America points guy, the fake points guy, is correct in saying that Chase isn't really manufactured or MS friendly, money friendly. So that's one thing. City's a little bit better with that. And a lot of like local credit unions are, as you said that there too, they tend to care a little bit less. So yeah, it just depends on the bank. And if you haven't had the account for a long time or been a long member, or if you're, if you've been there for 5 years and you're spending, $2,000 a month and all of a sudden you make $20,000 deposits, that's going to, raise some suspicion for sure. So something else to check out. Okay, and then guys, I'm going to touch on that last question here a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and lock the seat here. Tyler, if you're still with me, if you want to go ahead and click in, that would be great right now. And then, there we go. Excellent. Show callers. Accept. I kind of used to some of this stuff. I'm not too familiar. Hey, man, how's it going?
Good. How you been? Can you hear me?
I can.
All right,
I
cool,
can.
cool.
Excellent. So everybody, I kind of touched on it a little bit before the show. This is Tyler. He's, I don't know, you're starting your own blog a little bit, do a little bit some Twitch stuff.
Yeah. I started the website kind of and the blog kind of for friends and family who were kind of interested in what I was doing, and from there it's been up for about a month now, and I know I have friends and family who are reading it, and where it goes from there, who knows. So, but of course, everyone's welcome to check it out. So it's just dealswithbeals.com.
Actually, I think I can put a link up here. I always spelled deals wrong.
It's just deals,
I know.
The website's definitely a work in progress. But yeah. Right.
I always put the deals, the DEELS. I'm like, oh shit, that's wrong. So I gotta.
Sure.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, the link is I think it's right down below me for you guys. So be sure to click on that. So I speak with Tyler on the occasion. We kind of bounce ideas off one another for the past few weeks, and he's got he's pretty familiar with manufacturer spending. I don't know exactly what you want to talk about. Just your exact methods. I wouldn't kind of go over some of that stuff, but maybe experiences you've had with customer service reps and repertoire, how you've grown to. I know that you said you're at the point now where you walk in somewhere and they're just like, they know who you are. It's the same way I am with Rite Aid.
Yeah.
Just the process of getting to that stage.
Sure. Well, obviously when I started doing it, I started off, with low volume, and that was both for, basically building a pattern with the credit cards, and also, I don't want to go into Rite Aid or CVS the first time and try $3,000 for the limit is. So basically, I started with that, and after a while, the cashiers were, it's not that they didn't care, but I don't know, the way I've always said, it's their job, and they get paid what they get paid, and I guess I don't know, maybe I've just never had a problem with it. Actually, I shouldn't say I've never had a problem with it. I've had a few problems before, but like you said, like you said at the beginning of the show, the whole thing about Visa gift cards, I think it's definitely just for fraud and money laundering, while they're kind of looked down,
Right.
Especially when you're doing a lot. But basically, just after doing it a while and coming back to the stores, once or twice a week to 3 times a week to, I'm not saying 5 times a week, but whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, at this point, when I go to a CVS or a Rite Aid, in my area, not many people do it. So basically, they just leave them in the box, the shipping box at the bottom of the shelf. They don't really put them on the shelves anymore. And I go the money order route, and then when I do the money orders, I've built kind of relationships with the customer service people, how your kid's doing, what's new with your family, blah, blah, blah. So I'd say it's definitely really about building relationships. I guess it's kind of a weird thing to say, but I guess building a relationship with the people that you do work with and who you buy gift cards and money orders from.
No, absolutely. And do you, like, I know some people, they take it kind of like to the next level extreme. They got the schedules down of people. They know who's working when. Are you kind of like that? Or you just, do you just go in generally at the same time just because that's when you're available?
It kind of depends. Like, I'm still in school, so it's kind of built around school. And during the summer, I'd say I kind of had a schedule. I never wrote anything down, but I just noticed that the person that I worked with would always be there on Monday, Wednesday, Friday between this time. So then I kind of just started following that. Yeah, so I only went to a few places to get the money orders, and it just kind of worked out that, during the summer when I wasn't at school or anything, it seemed like whenever I would go into those 2 or 3 places, the people that I always worked with would be there. So I guess it just kind of worked out.
Right. And then I said, I don't know if you want to talk about your actual figures, anything like that, but you generally you go a money order route. Eventually, is how you're liquidating through a number of
Correct.
banks. But you say you never had an issue with your banks, like you're saying. He just put $1,000 and he has his accounts held up for a couple of weeks. You've never had any issues like that, or?
No, the only bank-related thing I've had is one time the local branch manager kind of asked what was going on, and just told her the truth, and she was fine with it. I think one time online from the bank's website, I think I was locked one time online, and I just gave him a call, and then I locked the account. But besides that, I've never had a problem like depositing or anything like that.
Right. So yeah, that's not too bad. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I guess if you kind of just go off what I'm saying, if you're new to the whole thing, obviously if you've been manufactured spending for a while, this is, kind of just conversation. But if you're new to the whole thing, it really, like for me, it really did help just getting to know the people. And that was one of the biggest, it makes everything so much easier just because I don't mind doing it, but I don't like to make somebody feel uncomfortable, and that's out of your control. Like some people are just going to. So that was always one of the biggest things to me was just, it's nice to know I don't have to worry about that kind of stuff now. I mean,
yeah.
If I try to buy $1,500 worth of Visa gift cards and my credit card's denied because of fraud, they're like, I don't have to, I'm not like feeling like an idiot. Like they know, they're like, haha, you're going to give them a call and come right back.
Yeah,
like,
call them and text them. Yeah.
Right. So they know the whole process now.
Yeah, like I said before, I mean, I think the relationship aspect is really key. I mean, you might get a new employee who's working, but kind of like the I think you were talking about it earlier today, and I know we were talking about it a week ago or so. There was a new employee, and she was kind of weirded out, but someone else talked to you, and they were like, "We told her what you do, like you're all good from that point on." So, like that, I mean, I think building those relationships and just kind of getting a groove with the person, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's like I think I'm a friendly person or I try to be extra friendly with them, but I think building that relationship and like not just going in there, grabbing them, walking away, and not talking or anything. I think definitely being personable helps out when you're doing something like this.
Right. I'm gonna look through here. Got Dan has a question here. Brings up any thoughts or techniques anyone has successfully used Bitcoin. I have never looked into Bitcoin. I don't know if that's something you have. I mean, I've done it personally. I've bought a few $100 here and there, but it's nothing I've actually done for manufactured spending. So I couldn't even, really comment on it.
I can't touch on that either. I bought Bitcoins before, a few years ago when they really cheap, and I've never looked into Bitcoin for MS purposes. I have seen, I think there has been some talk about Bitcoins on the Reddit thread a little bit, on the trending thread, but I don't have a lot of thoughts or techniques. I don't know about the fees associated, or potentially having your money held up or anything like that. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's the point. This guy says they go up and down so quick, and they're so liquid right now.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. You're putting yourself at a risk. Even if you could find a way to purchase and liquidate the same day, that same day could literally be 20% loss. So it's been a little bit more stable over the past, I don't know, about 6 months or so now. But it's a very liquid thing, so it's touchy. Even if you do find a way to, make a little bit of money or break even in a course of a day, it's still dangerous just because the amounts can fluctuate so much.
Yeah, you can lose it all real quick.
Yeah, right. I'm trying to look up the Bitcoin prices, and so it looks like late 2015. It went up really high at the beginning of 2015, and it dropped suddenly. Now it's been kind of stationary lately, but yeah, no, it's one thing I would never touch, just because, kind of where I'm at, I don't have, if I lost $3,000, like, I'm screwed. I mean, it's not easy for me. So it's nothing, Bitcoins are something I would never touch on. That's just me, but yeah, that's how I feel personally. Jacob brings up any good recommendations for credit unions or banks for money orders. Live in Southeast Michigan, so maybe some credit unions would apply for both of us. No, I don't think so. I think most of my credit unions are very, very local. I live in a very small city, so it's a little bit tougher. If I had some more stuff up on Pittsburgh, maybe to have some more recommendations. But as far as bigger banks that are fine with money orders, there is actually a Flyer Talk thread about this, and it has some really good, I don't know if you've seen it, Tyler, there's some really good information though, and they talk a lot about mobile deposits as well. So let's see if I can find it. Have you seen that, where they actually talk about the mobile deposits through money orders?
Yeah, I've read a little bit about the mobile deposits. I don't know how it's changed. I think there's a limit on how much the deposit can be, but I know most people that get money orders get them for probably $9.99.30 or $4.99.30 or whatever the fee is, minus 2 cards or 1 card. So I mean, if it's $1,000 limit, then you're good. But I don't know about how many you can. I don't know. I mean, I've seen the thread. I've never really read into it, because I've never had a problem going to the ATM or the bank. But I'm curious as to if you were doing multiple per day after a while, how would they feel about that? That's what I'd be curious about.
Yeah, so I went ahead and I linked up the post down below me. You guys can click on that, and that's the thread I was talking about. You can kind of see some of the banks that allow it, and kind of where they're at with it. So Simple, the first bank that's on there, Simple, that's the bank I have. It's just my normal bank, so I don't really do it too much. That's another thing for people that are new. Don't do any kind of manufacturer spending in your bank account. Apply for a second bank account and do it there, because the chances of you getting locked up or something, even your account frozen for a month, is not out of the ordinary. So, make sure that you open up a second bank account and use that account for a lot of manufacturer spending. But as I was saying, like Simple, that's the bank I have. I literally had $500. Okay, so it wasn't like I was dealing with anything extravagant. It was $500. I made one deposit, and they started to question me on that. So I've learned my lesson not to deposit money orders through Simple. They just kind of want to know who it was from, what it was for, stuff like that. But it was like, it was really none of their business, and that's kind of basically what I said. I just said it was a cash deposit. I didn't say anything else, because Simple is an online bank, so there are no actual branches to go into. So if I have $500 in cash, the only way I could deposit that is through a money order. So
sure.
That's the process. That's what I told them. They seemed okay. They didn't give me a problem after that. But yeah, never manufacture spend any extent through your personal bank account. It's just not smart. Looking through some of these, PenFed, 5K per day, post immediately. So there's certainly some interesting ones in there. But when it comes to any kind of mobile deposit, understand it's very much, your mileage may vary. So I guess before I jump off of, I don't know, what else do you have? What else do you have on manufacturer spending? I don't want to just jump off it quite yet.
Green Lotus Foods has a question right here that I can answer fairly easily. He says, how do you write up the money orders exactly? You can't write your name for both payer and payee. I know for me, and I know a lot of people who do the money orders in the banks, they like to give business bank accounts. So, for the payee, you can just put your business, your business name or whatever you do, and then for the payer, you can sign your name. And on the back, you just like how you validate a check on the back, just sign the business name. I've just put the business name before, and sometimes I've just put the same signature that I put as the payer, and I've never had an issue.
Right. Yeah, I just apply for myself when I've done it. I've written down from me to me. I signed it back. I've never had an issue with it. But that's only, that's through two different banks. I've never had an issue doing that. If you just make it out to you, sign it back, and it's kind of weird. I don't know what's going on with I can't get rid of the pen here, so I can't for some reason bring up the question. Give me one quick second. I gotta get this cat out of this room. She's killing me. Hold on.
What was that?
Yeah, she starts meowing, and she's I got the door closed, so she's trapped in here. Yeah, if you have any questions, make sure you do the /Q so we can see them. Let's see here. Do I got anything else? Some banks will like to do. Yeah, now points, Mitch. For some reason, like I said, the questions just aren't popping up for me. Do you still see on the bottom of yours where it says banks allow money orders, the Flyer Talk link?
Yeah, that's still there.
Yeah, I can't get rid of it for some reason. So that kind of stinks. This whole system is still very new, and they're still working on it. Points, Mitch says, banks allow you to make a credit card payment with a money order. You can even make the payments at branches. Yeah, I don't know how comfortable I would be doing that per se, but I mean, I think taking your money orders into a branch, especially like Tyler said, if you have a business account, probably the best way of going about it. Or, I mean, you could make credit card payments, and that goes right back to just like what we were saying earlier. Just if you go into the same branch, you go in there a good bit, and you start to grow up a repertoire with the people, you're at much less chance anybody's going to ask a question or fine with that. So, that kind of goes right back hand in hand with what we were saying before. I just wish I could, still can't get that off there. So I'm going to go ahead and jump on Starwood. Tyler, if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, sure. I'll see if I can be any help with Starwood.
Alrighty. So I can't, like I said, for some reason I can't get it off. But so we'll go ahead and switch the subject to Starwood, Marriott merger. I can say that now. Last week we were still up in the air whether it was going to be the Marriott and Bang or Starwood merger, and now we kind of know it will be Starwood and Marriott. And I don't know if you want to disclose how many points you have. I know I have a fair amount, especially this last referral period that we went through. So if any of you guys use my referral, really appreciate it. I had a great month with that. So that was fantastic. So me and my fiance were going to Italy. So I was kind of questioning about spending a lot of points and going to the Westin, and now I definitely have the points. So we're going to live it up. Stay at the Westin Excelsior in Florence. So we're pretty excited over that. So again, thanks to anybody who used it and or anybody who's watching the recording. But if we go back, jump into, I more want to talk about the future of the Starwood program, because I don't know, like I said, I don't know if you want to say how many points you have, but you have a good number of Starwood points, at least compared to most people in the sub. Where do you stand with it? Are you a little bit worried? Are you looking to spend those points? Are you going to hold on to them? Where do you stand with it all?
Yeah, I don't know. I think the thing I'm most curious about is just, if they do merge the programs, what's the ratio going to be from Star points to, Marriott points, I guess, and like I said, I mean, I don't have like any of the Chase Hyatt cards or the IHGs. Basically, I don't say a lot of hotels. So, I guess Starwood's my main hotel brand. for now. So I mean, I haven't really followed the merger that much. So for me, the only thing I'm really curious as is to, when it comes to transferring the points, are the what's it going to transfer? Some odd reason are they going to keep two programs? Whatever. That's kind of where I don't really know much about it, and that's really what I'm just worried about is how are they going to transfer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that at least the CEO came out. He said that the programs will merge, and it's going to become the Marriott program. Obviously, you're with everybody else on what's the transfer rate going to be. That's the biggest question right now. So a lot of people are worried. Do we burn our points? Do we hold on to them? Because obviously, for those who aren't familiar or too familiar with the different programs and loyalty programs, Marriott points are, I forget where they're at. They're about 0.6, 0.8 cents a point, and Starwood's about 2.4. So anywhere between, so it's like about 3 times the value of a Marriott point. So does Marriott merge at a 1.5? 1.5 Starwood points become, or 1.5 Marriott points becomes a Starwood point, or 1 Starwood point becomes 1.5 Marriott points. I don't know. Of course, nobody knows what the exchange is going to be. But here's a couple things from my, what I'm looking at and what I'm seeing here. All right, I can't type in. I'm gonna mess myself up. There we go. Okay, so the big thing for me is that these programs aren't going to merge overnight. Okay, so here we are in April 2016. I don't expect any changes through 2016 for sure. 2017, of course, leaves a lot up in the air. It just depends on when you're talking a merger this size, there's a lot that goes into it. So I'm not expecting anything right away. I'm looking at 2017 and saying that I'm not going to go burn my points. I may be like a little bit more, may even be like a little bit more careful on how I'm using them, or I should say less careful on how I'm using them. For instance, if I'm going to be going somewhere and I'm debating between a category 4 or 5, I'm jumping up to the 5. Why not?
Sure.
But my biggest thing is that, number one, the Starwood program is going to maintain value for a while. And then number two, the biggest thing is that they're not going to change this program overnight. So unlike Alaska, where if anybody was in that, whole ordeal with whoever Emirates. They were, Emirates, yeah. That's not going to happen with this. This is not going to be an overnight thing. There's going to be a lot of information leaks, and it's going to take a period of, many months, if not, a couple years to do this. So I think that you have plenty of time to hold on to your points. If, something comes around where you need to, if they were to say, hey, everybody, tomorrow or whatever, next week, we're going to be doing this, you can still just transfer those points out to airline miles, and they transfer at a great rate. So it's not, there's really not, it's really not too big of a deal to worry about that right now. I think hold on to your points, kind of use them as you normally would, maybe be a little bit less careful or a little bit less hesitant on using them. That's my approach to it. That's the only thing I'm changing up though. Like if I'm going to, I'm trying to think, like 4th of July, I don't know where I'm going yet. I want to go to Seattle maybe. So, maybe instead of staying 2 nights wherever, I'm going to stay 2 nights at the W in Seattle just because, so maybe a little bit less careful, but that's really the only big changes I'm making with mine. I don't know. And that's because I'm curious to see what happens with the points, because let's just say, okay, everybody's making this out to be worst case scenario, but let's just say theoretically the point merger or point transfer rate is favorable. What if it's, I don't know what favorable is. I kind of balances, but let's say 2-to-1 or 3-to-1. Let's say it's 3-to-1. I don't think it's going to be 3-to-1, but let's just speak in theory here. If it's 3-to-1, that's even more incentive to hold on to those Starwood points, because now you're going to have, so many more properties to use those points at. It's not a bad thing. Were you around, Tyler, when you were around with the U.S. Airways and American Airlines merger?
Yeah, with the U.S. Airways card that became the Aviator Reds.
Right.
You talking about that? Yeah.
Yeah. This could be a situation like that where maybe you hold on to your points. Maybe they merge over at a very favorable rate, and plans that Marriott is going to do a devaluation, within the first 4 or 5 months of the merger happening. But maybe for that first 4 or 5 months, the exchange rate is great, and you're able to. That's kind of what they did. American Airlines, U.S. Airways. U.S. Airways miles became American Airline miles. People have had a boatload of points, and that really opened up to a lot of great rewards. And now, American Airlines, they knew they had to devalue their charts because the amount of points people had now was off. Was going crazy. But it took them a number of months to do that. So it may be very similar feel here for for the Marriott Starwood merger. You may just have a lot more Marriott points that you can use at a lot of great properties. So certainly not jumping to get rid of them. That's for sure. Corey asked the question, is there any reward programs you feel better for foreign stays as opposed to domestic stays? I don't know. What about you, Tyler? I know you don't stay at a lot of hotels, but you've done some traveling.
Yeah, I've done some traveling. A lot of the international traveling I've done in Europe and everything. I have family over there, so I've just stayed with them. I don't really know. Like you said, I'm not really big in the hotel thing. I think it's either a lot of people I don't know. I don't want to be wrong here. I don't know if it's Hyatt or Hilton, but I think it might be the Hyatt that has some pretty good international properties.
I got Russell jumping in here as well. Hopefully, We'll see if it works because this whole thing is a little jumpy, so it may not work. I think for when it comes to the international hotels,
hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, man, how are you?
Good. How about you?
Good, excellent.
Good.
Nice seeing you, huh? See you here every week, so it's good to jump in.
Yeah, good to meet you in person.
So what about you? You got any experience international traveling? What hotel brands are a little better?
Not necessarily international. I actually just got back today from a trip to Washington, D.C. I'm usually a Hyatt guy. I travel 3 or 4 nights a week for business. And usually, at least I have about 10 or 15 colleagues that are kind of in the same boat as me. And so we usually try and do either Starwood or Hyatt, try and get top tier in that status, and then Hilton or Marriott get top tier in that program as well, just because Hilton and Marriott have such a large footprint. I think Starwood has a slightly larger footprint than Hyatt, at least internationally. I think they got 1,100 hotels compared to Hyatt's 600. So I definitely think if you're looking for a broad footprint, Marriott or Hilton would be better, but I think Starwood definitely has better properties overall.
I know my uncle does a lot of traveling for he is a salesman for printing presses, and he does international travel. Well, he did international travel pretty much 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month. Marriott is where they stay exclusively, pretty much. So the Marriott footprint certainly is the best. It is the largest, I believe, right now, at least for hotels. If I was going to be, if you're trying to pick one place, that'd probably be the way to go. But Corey, the question Field of Churn asked is, hotel reward programs do you feel better for foreign stays? I don't think there's any. The reward system doesn't really fluctuate too much when it comes to domestic or foreign. They're all about the same. It depends more on where you're staying. If you're staying in, say, Indonesia, of course, your nights are way, way less. You could stay at a high-end resort for 4,000 or 5,000 Starwood points a night, as compared to U.S. where you're paying 20,000 for the same type of room. So I think that's really the biggest difference, is just picking out, using sites like Award Mapper. If you guys, if anybody uses that, Award Mapper has just been fantastic for looking up those kind of stays and just finding a better value through travel, different TripAdvisor, things like that.
One thing I was going to hop back real quick on what you were saying about Starwood and Marriott is I think it's actually a good thing, at least short term for us, that Starwood and Marriott are merging, is because American Express is going to be tempted to raise sign-up bonuses like we saw the $35K a couple weeks ago. I think that's because they're worried that Chase will be the credit card issuer if the two brands merge.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, and I think that's why you saw the 35,000 offer, and you're going to see it again in September, and you're going to see it a couple times next year as well.
Yeah.
Just by judging when I think you're absolutely right. When that merger happens, Chase is going to be the card issuer. There's no doubt about that. American Express, they're not going to have any way to hold on to it. I'm really interested to see what happens with American Express because, I mean, they just lost their Costco deal. Now they're losing
everything.
Yeah, and they're going to lose Starwood, which I guess Starwood doesn't really make up a lot of their sales. I was kind of surprised, but I don't know if you guys saw the article, but I think they're like the Starwood card is something like 3% of their portfolio. So not a really big loss for them, but it is a staple brand that they're losing at least. So, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do as a company, and they're losing money as it is. That's, you go into the whole serve thing. So it'll be interesting to see, where Amex ends up, over the next few years at least. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't view it as a bad thing. I think a lot of people are, they're looking at like Marriott, like it's going to be a 1-to-1 transfer and it's going to be terrible. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I don't like the loyalty program as much as I like Starwood. I don't like the properties as much as I like Starwood. I like Starwood's service that I get inside, these properties. But I don't think it's going to be like a terrible thing. Like they're just going to transfer at a 1-to-1 ratio. You're not going to have, your 200,000 Starwood points are going to become, worth 2 nights in a hotel. That's not going to happen. I don't see it. So, yeah, I don't see that. I think people are a little bit. Yeah, Costco was certainly huge. I saw that points guy down there. Yeah, Costco was a huge loss. Starwood not so much, but yeah, it will be interesting to see how everything pans out. But I don't have a bad feeling about it. I think that if the transfer rate is good, then you're going to have a lot more opportunity to spend those points at a lot new properties that you couldn't before. So not too bad.
I think one thing, I agree. I think it's good in the short term. I think long term, though, especially because Marriott moves around its hotels so much on a category. So they're, Marriott and I think Hilton are the two biggest category changers, as opposed to Starwood that doesn't really move their categories around too much. I think we're going to see a lot of Starwood properties, if they're integrated in, I think they're going to be put in at a very high level, like, category 8 or 9, or even like a tier 1 or 2 Ritz-Carlton.
It'll be interesting to see how the tiers work because, when you have properties like the luxury collection, where they're a little bit nicer properties, it's going to be interesting to see where they fall into. Starwood, I mean, for people who, I know that you guys are following the mergers and everything, but for people who aren't familiar with the two companies, Starwood is losing money, and they're losing money because they're mid-tier hotels, which is basically Sheraton. That's where all their money is invested into. Sheratons just aren't as nice as a Hyatt Regency or a Marriott, and that's where all their marbles are, and that's where they're losing money. Now, they're nicer properties like the luxury collection and the West Ends and those properties like that. They're profitable and they're great. They're great hotels. There's not a whole lot better than some of those luxuries or West Ends. So, like, yeah, what you're saying down here, it's going to be interesting to when they do merge because they have a lot of really nice properties, but then they have, like their mid-tier stuff, I think may become a little bit more affordable, but their high-tier stuff may become a little bit more out of reach. That's kind of what I'm feeling. If anything is going to change with the points, it may be something like that.
I don't want to leave this the Starwood conversation, but just while we're on the topic, and I don't want to like get it towards the Starwood credit card, but someone posted about on Reddit, and I had the same experience on the last day that the last day of the 35 offer on the 30th. My referral link, my business referral link didn't work. And I know someone was posting about this on the Reddit thread. So I called them and I told them I had 2 people, I believe. It was either 2, I think it was 2 people who were going to sign up for it. And I basically told them that, I wasn't going to get the bonus because my link isn't working. And they just gave me the 10,000 Starwood points. And I know someone else on the thread had that problem. I don't know if anyone here has had that problem. If you did, comment, and that'd be interesting to see. But I just thought I'd throw that out there, and I was curious as to if maybe Russell Robb or if you, Frank, had that issue.
Actually, funny enough, I have. So I maxed out of my personal referrals because I think whatever it's 11. I think I had 6 or so before the 35 even took off, just by friends and stuff. And then 35 happened and I got, the 5 through Reddit. So I put up the business link because I didn't even know there was a business referral until like the last day. But I found out that a couple more people used my personal referral. So when I called them up, I kind of explained the situation. Hey, I maxed out on my referrals. Do I have anything? What's going on? I would love. I'm a blogger. I have a web show. I would love to promote your cards a little bit more. Is there a way to reset that? Can instead of have 11, can I go back down to 0? Is there a way to do something like that? Or that guy, he assured me. He says, obviously he kind of laughed it off. There's no way to reset it, but he was very straightforward in saying, I'm looking at your account right now. You have 2 applications that are pending. They should clear here in the next week or 2. And as long as they are approved, if you give us a call back in another week or so, we're able to look into it. We're able to know how many referrals you have and how many generated points or how many points you were awarded for it. So they'll know. And he says, we'll gladly give you the Starwood points. Just a manual account override to kind of give me my 10K points. So yeah, I mean, it goes right hand in hand with what you're saying. I don't trust it though, because I just, I don't trust what anything a customer service rep says.
I wonder,
but it's good to know.
I wonder if American Express is doing that just so they can, get more brand loyalty, especially if, depending on how the card issuer situation looks once they merge, is if American, and it's too early to tell, obviously, but if American Express gets to keep all the existing card holders, I could definitely see them. I haven't had personal experience, but I could definitely see them, anxious to give out, these star points, which pretty soon they won't be able to give out anymore.
It goes hand in hand with the Barclay, the U.S. Airways, and the American Airlines card again. That's kind of how that program finished. It was, Barclays was a lot more lenient. They had, 50,000 miles after one purchase.
Yeah.
So it was like kind of ridiculous
annual fee that you could prorate.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Right. So it was ridiculous. And I think that's, what American Express could end up doing is something very similar to that. So yeah, I don't trust what they say they're going to do a manual override. I have my fiance's account and I'll just use hers to generate, some more referrals that way. But yeah, it is interesting to know, and it's going to be interesting to follow over the next, year or two when the Marriott does end up taking over, for sure. And then we're almost wrapped up, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to kick you guys off if you don't mind. I appreciate you guys stopping in, Tyler, Russell. Go ahead. Do my my goodbyes here. Take it easy, man. Okay, and so for some reason I still can't close out of the Flyer Talk threads that are out there to stay. In closing, if you guys have any questions, answers, I'd love to bring them up. So if you guys have anything, just let me know. Do a /Q and type them in. I can do a few more minutes of the questions and answers before I sign off. But generally speaking, I think that we're just about done with the show just because time is running out. I don't want to make the recordings much more than an hour, so that's just preferred, for what I'm doing. His name Keys. He did ask the question. I say it won't come up, but is there any good resources for someone just getting started in trading? Yes, Reddit. Reddit is obviously, that's the only place I have gone from start to finish is Reddit. It's an absolutely fantastic community, and I'd like to think that my parts as moderator, I've helped out with the sidebar a lot, and when MK and myself became moderators of that sub, we put a lot of work into that sidebar, making it good. Mostly MK, he did a lot of the work on the actual layout and things, and I think Lumpy has done a fantastic job with all the guides. And I think that with the flares and just the different different ways to gain information from Reddit, it's pretty incredible. It's really powerful. It's a lot better than it was. There's a trade-off. Like when I first started a couple years ago, it was a very slow community, so I was able to ask questions a little bit more generously. I didn't have as many problems, and now I think that the way that Reddit's opened up, it's certainly a great platform. A lot of information there. I'd certainly recommend it. So Reddit's obviously the best. Flyer Talk is all right. Not my favorite place. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. The useful links, some of the blogs and the useful links, if you click on, where's the blogs at? Basic Reading maybe, or recommended blogs, right to learn more. Recommended blogs and then the useful links. Those two tools are absolutely fantastic, resources for getting started. Points guy, like I said, I can try to bring it up, but it won't happen. He's actually a question somebody else answered. What's the best source? Alex wants to know what's the best source for manufacturer spending. It's really personable. Yeah, and I'm with you, kiddies. I don't like to lay out a Flyer Talk either. But when it comes to best source of manufacturer spending, I spoke a little bit about that in my earlier at the beginning of the show with manufacturer spending. For me, Visa gift cards from Rite Aid, and I load them right onto Serve. That's for me, that's just the easiest way for to generate some manufacturer spending. Prefer that more than anything else. Let's see here. We got two more questions actually. Guy says he's only got one Discover It card, working his credit up from a 720 to 750, getting a CSP for a good first move. I'm trying to read up as much as possible. Is the CSP a good first card? Yeah, it is a good card. I don't think you can go wrong with the CSP as one of your first cards. Make sure that when you do, you use the referral red in Reddit. So if you go down to learn more, there's a referral threads link button. You click on that, navigate to the Chase Sapphire Prefer, pick out one of the names in there, who is somebody who's helped you out, and a name that you're familiar with, anything like that. Make sure to use their referral link. There's a lot of people who post the same link multiple times. There's a lot of spammers on there. It's hard to combat it. We tried. That's, yeah, I mean, if it's a 1K, but Discover is very greedy on credit lines. I think it's worth a try. I mean, what are you really out? It depends a lot on your history, your credit history and things like that. Without going into too much detail here, it's tough to really say, but I think the CSP is a good first card. Discover can be very greedy with the credit limit. I mean, I had a Chase Ritz for $30,000. I have the Fairmont card for $35,000, and then I have the Discover It for, I think they gave me $3,000. So Discover, they can be really greedy with their, and yeah, don't be surprised if you get it recon. If you're denied, and definitely give them a call, because I think you'll be fine with it. It just depends where you're at with your history. And then last question before I go and sign off, Corey says, with a large amount of popular avenues for MS drying up, if you found a new and easy way would you hit it hard or slow and steady? If I found my own method, I would hit it up slow and consistent. Slow and steady for sure. I don't have my own method. I wish I did. But that would certainly be the way to go, just because you don't want to raise any red flags, and you don't want to, and certainly the last thing you don't want to do is go around telling people on Reddit. I love Reddit, and I'm all about sharing information. If you guys have any resources, articles, news things, whatever you have, that's great. But you do not want to make a new post on Reddit and tell everybody, here's how you manufacture spend, because it will get shut down relatively quick. There's so many people on that sub. I don't know if you guys know the statistics or not, but it's something like 170,000 people every day or every month on that sub. So the amount of people accessing that page is ridiculous. And even if there's only a very small portion of people who actually respond and make posts and things like that, there's a boatload of people there. So you definitely want to be a little hesitant and be careful on what you post, and when you get into things like that. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go stop the recording. I'll stick around for a little bit if you guys just want to chat a little bit more general conversation. If anybody wants to jump on and talk to me. So I appreciate everybody stopping in. I'm interested to see what the numbers end up being. next week I will be in Japan. So I didn't get to talk at all about my trip to Japan, which is unfortunate because my fiance and I, that's all we talk about. We literally sit there in our freaking living room and we just watch videos, and I'm so excited for this trip. It's going to be absolutely incredible. We're just, man, overwhelmed with joy. Yeah, and it's going to be the sakura season. The cherry blossoms are in full bloom over there. It's just absolutely awesome looking at the pictures that they're posting on Facebook, and some of the conversation that I'm having with the marketing team from Andes and the marketing team from the Ritz-Carlton. They're excited to have me. So it's going to be a great trip. I'm just so freaking excited to go there. Wish I could talk a little more about that. I may, like I said, we may chat a little bit after, but if you guys have any, like I said, if you guys have any more, when it comes to next week, I hope to have a show on site in Japan. I want to see how it works. I know that this Blab, they have a cell phone application, so I'd love to get my cell phone and be walking around, because I think, so right now it's 10 o'clock at night, so it's actually 11 o'clock in the morning in Japan the following day. So if I'm able to, be out at 10, I know I'll be out at 10 a.m. It's just, will I have reception? Will I have an internet connection? Because I don't want to record. It'd be very difficult for me to have a show in a hotel room just because I'm in Japan. Sorry, seeing Japan comes over the webcast. So hopefully, if I can do anything where it's on site and live, I'm definitely going to do it. So stick around, and we will. I'll have all kind of information for the people tuning in next week. Then, so appreciate everybody watching the recording or tuning in, and we'll see you next week.